What is up YouTube, and welcome to this Lovecraft Country video breakdown. Now, it's been a while since I've actually done a video on Lovecraft Country because life has just got in the way, but this episode reminded me so much of the game Outer Worlds, mainly because of the planet hopping sci-fi 50s inspired worlds, which was so very cool. And I appreciate this episode for pushing the story forward and doing things a bit different after last week's admittedly very slow episode, which I found incredibly boring. There will be spoilers in this episode, so if you don't want to be spoiled, then you've been warned as we dive into this week's breakdown. We finally pick up a plot thread that felt abandoned weeks ago as Hippolyta finally goes to see where George died, and she finds the demolished lodge building, yet finds a logo for the Order of the Ancient Dawn, meaning she has something to go on as her and Diana leave. She manages to use this logo to turn on the orrery that reveals the location of the time and even space and reality dimension machine that was made by one of the members of the Ancient Dawn. And this is the exact device and machine that the captain has been looking to try and use. She has a key here, and there is a phrase saying every beginning is in time and every limit of extension in space on it, which is by Immanuel Kant. He was a philosopher in the Enlightenment period, and this specific quote was in his book The Critique of Reason. The Critique of Reason was a kind of deep dive into what's real, what's not, what is a real experience, and the difference between those, and as well as that, discussing space and time. It's a very big thing there, and unfortunately I'm too thick to be able to discuss that too much, so I recommend going and checking out some videos on that. Now, I long wondered where the iconic Lovecraft monsters would really come from, and if we would ever actually get a kind of payoff from that dream sequence in episode 1, and it seems like this space and time machine has opened up so much for the show to explore, and it seems like we may actually get to see more of that as we go forward. It seemed maybe this was prophetic in the dream of Atticus there, and he was reading a book which became real, and as well as that, the machine actually had Diana's kind of comic book that she made, and then that became real in that world. So it seems like it kind of manifests and creates things out of the real world. Now, she heads to the location of the observatory, and she's attacked by the policemen who are under the control of the police captain himself. On her way, she came across Bessie Stringfield, a legendary woman who pioneered motorcycling, and she actually was the first black woman to kind of motorcycle across all 48 states, solo 48 states there at the time, of course. And this is a theme throughout. We see many other iconic black women throughout this episode. This is Hippolyta's first introduction to the crazy world of magic, as she turns on the machine only for the craziness really to hit the fan as it opens a portal that Tick throws a guy through, and Hippolyta then gets trapped and goes through. Now, this is clearly the machine that Winthrop's hiding and the police captain was looking for, and in the book, Hippolyta came across some people that Winthrop had trapped in this weird dimension, and it seems like they're going a bit off-piste here off of the book. And this was all because we had Winthrop's son run off with a maid. Now, again, it is very different here. And here she goes across seemingly space and time, which is just absolutely bizarre. She meets a woman with a massive afro, which reminded me of a character from Steven Universe, and she's imprisoned and implanted with something on her wrist, and she gets asked where she wants to go. But before this character has a kind of name which is similar to Beyonce, and I see what they're doing there. Now, she goes to Paris, which was her request, and she wants to dance with Josephine Baker, who again, we get another trailblazer in breaking racial boundaries, and she was actually, as well as that, a big part of the civil rights movement later on, but she moved to France because she felt more accepted there. And over the top of them dancing, we have a speech by Frida Kahlo, who again was an iconic painter who also had an affair with Josephine. And in this episode, Hippolyta finally learns who she should be. And this whole theme of I am is her finding out who she really is. And she says that she was just existing to fit into how white society wants her to be. And she realizes that she needs to rise up and she needs to be who she wants to be. and due to the impression, she wants to actually go out and commit violence. And then she finally says, or gets asked who she is, and she says, "I'm Hippolyta." And then she goes to another reality. And what is interesting is that this reality where she's trained to be a warrior is that this is the world of the Dahomey Amazons. And these were people who had a war with the French soldiers in real life. But it seems like they're fighting the Confederates, which is interesting, as the Dahomey Amazons actually had a war with the French. So it does seem like this is a blend of real life and fantasy in these worlds. The Dahomey Amazons were an all-female regiment in the kingdom of Dahomey, which is now modern-day Benin in Africa. Now it's really interesting as she goes through a whole soul search in each one of these realities. And once she's done here, she also goes back in time to be with George. And she kind of explains to him that, well, you were the one holding me back. I thought you saw the light in me, but, well, she was just shrinking to fit in with him. Again, I love the idea that this isn't about race. It's also about oppression of gender, because Atticus can join the Ancient Dawn despite him being black. Now, George and Hippolyta both had dreams of exploring the world, and he wanted to explore the country and things like that and write his book, whereas Hippolyta wanted to expand and work in the space sector, but she was kind of downtrodden and not allowed to because of her race. Now, they go into a reality where they can live out these fantasies, living in a 50s sci-fi comic book world. And this is basically the coolest thing, because it is Diana's comic book that's come true here, and Hippolyta is dressed like that, and she's in space and she's offered the chance to, decide to stay there forever. But she says her daughter needs her, as she's becoming the hero that her daughter wanted her, or at least was missing, because how often did you see a woman superhero, even that of colour, back then? Well, we have Hippolyta now become that character. I loved that. I thought that was so cool. However, this comic book was left at the base of the machine, which means the police captain can now find Diana to interrogate her about her mother and how she was able to turn on the machine. And I think that he may actually be able to find the orrery, and this is going to be a big MacGuffin moving forward. Interestingly, the coordinates under each world and time period she visits in the book were actually in a book found in the orrery that accompanied the key. And another thing that's interesting is that Tick actually found the Lovecraft Country book. And, well, this was written by George. On the name it was there, and it's also in 1986. So that absolutely blows my mind that that's happened there. Now, Atticus also came through the portals as well, and he must have that, and he must know all about this. One of the other big storylines was how Tick learned that Letty was having the same visions as him, that his ancestor escaped with the Book of Names, and of course this magic could have been passed through down his family. And considering that Letty's pregnant, this means she may also get more visions, as her child will have a connection to the magic, obviously, of what happened to Atticus's ancestors. And these visions may become even more intense. This is key as Christina wants this information, but his family's maternal side seems to have hit a dead end as he finds his father with the bar owner, and this explains why his father beat him so much, hoping he may not turn out like himself, and he also got this from his own father. He goes off to St. Louis as well, and he actually manages to find another family connection. And it turns out that his cousin has the same birthmark as him, and it does look like all of his family history was destroyed in the Tulsa race riots. And the Book of Names is out there and it's intertwined with his family. However, we know that time travel can exist. If the Book of Names was there in Tulsa, then they can go back in time and go and get it using the magic of the observatory machine. However, Hippolyta is offered, like I said, to go back in time, but she accepts she needs to return back to Earth. Another Easter egg there as well is that when this whole scene happened, Africa was the focus on Earth there. Now, Tick was also in the portal, but we didn't see what happened to him, and I think you'll have the idea, but the machine needs to be fixed again. And what is more is that the book will be a key thing. This is an alternative travel guide. So now this plot thread can continue on next week, but the more clear and present danger is Diana. Hippolyta has a new renewed vigour and sense of worth and purpose, and it'll be exciting to see what she does, and now she has no one holding her back. She can go on and be her true self. Also in this episode we had the fallout of Ruby and Christina, the latter wanting to do more with her magic and was using her ex as a source to create the change potion. She reveals that, well, her love of her life there was actually able to teach her to use magic, but was shot by the police captain. It seems like there's going to be more of a divide between Letty and Ruby, and it seems like Christina is using this to kind of get between them and have a plant within Atticus and Letty's group. But I hope that we get more things kind of connecting it all together, as I do feel the story is very, very fragmented, and I feel like they need to ground it a bit more and give us a kind of end game or end goal as to what they're actually trying to do, other than just try and get the pages and learn some magic spells. But that's it for this video, so please drop a like down below, please do subscribe with notifications on, and I'll see you soon. Goodbye.